tough times I've been going through, some tough times and I'm overdue. A good sign, maybe something new, some good times, give me any clue. Cause I don't wanna be left over, I just wanna know how it feels to have closure. Tough times I've been going through, some tough times I've been going through.
I feel like something's missing, my life's a little dull, think I have a condition. Everything I do, I just feel like I'm existing. I'm in a bad mood and there ain't no point resisting. My mind is on a mission to make me feel different. I don't wanna listen, but it's hard when it's persistent. Darkness is gripping, quicksand sifting. I've been sinking into this pit for a minute.
Tough times I've been going through, some tough times and I'm overdue. A good sign, maybe something new, some good times, give me any clue. Cause I don't wanna be left over, I just wanna know how it feels to have closure. Tough times I've been going through, some tough times I've been going through.
Tough times I've been going through, some tough times and I'm overdue. A good sign, maybe something new, some good times, give me any clue. Cause I don't wanna be left over, I just wanna know how it feels to have closure. Tough times I've been going through, some tough times I've been going through. I gotta break out of this, I'll do anything, take any risk. I just need to find my way to live, something in this life that's worth it. I'm sick of feeling so worthless, I need to find a path that's worth it. Break through the walls that are nervous, I'm free to find my purpose.
Tough times I've been going through, some tough times and I'm overdue. A good sign, maybe something new, some good times, give me any clue. Cause I don't wanna be left over, I just wanna know how it feels to have closure. Tough times I've been going through, some tough times I've been going through.
Tough times I've been going through, some tough times and I'm overdue. A good sign, maybe something new, some good times, give me any clue. Cause I don't wanna be left over, I just wanna know how it feels to have closure. Tough times I've been going through, some tough times I've been going through. I wake up every minute with the fever dreams, I push my mind to a limit where it needs to be. I work blind, got vision I don't need to see. I'm picking mind over matter, I believe in me. I need to find more hours in the day to breathe, need to find more power in the way I be. And when my mind turns sour with the painful scenes, I need to scream out loud, I can't stop me. I wanna be the greatest like Rocky, you know I leave them all hating like a hobby. I'm out here making moves like a lobby, and if you ain't with me, it's your loss. See, I got my mind on the facts, I'm a python, grab what I like real fast, choke until I have everything I attack, everything that I lack, everything that I want, and I see matter of fact.
Cause I'm my own worst enemy, only if I let it be. I can control anything if I can just think carefully. I control my destiny. Deep up in my mind I manifest it. Every morning I wake up obsessed, and everything I do the best. And deep within my mind, you know I'll always manifest it.
Hello and welcome to my Mind Over Your Matter. My name is Rick, and let's get this show started. All right, guys. What a day! I am so tired. I had a very long day today. The chiropractor did a lot of work on my back, and I've been very fatigued, very tired, very weak, especially in my spine. My spine's just been it's kind of making me sick. It's like when you know you're not feeling good and you're not good, you're not 100%. And I don't know if anybody else out there have spinal injuries, but I do. And it's been very challenging and very hard to get things done. And continuously dropping things is the worst thing that it's happening to me. I can't hold on to things for too long because they fall out of my hands, and that's concerning because I'm losing my strength in my hands and the ability to keep things balanced on my hands. So I know I got a long road ahead of me still, and there's a lot of bumps and turns along the way, but somehow, some way, we're not going to give up. I'm going to keep moving forward and try to get myself into a better position because right now it's just not in a good position. I'm in a lot of pain. Even though I take my medication, it still doesn't help. And it's to the point that it's making me sick. I'm not feeling good. But let me not bore you with all my drama. Let's go on to the world's drama and let's check out some news together. How about that? Let's set this up and let's watch it together. All right, here we go. Actually, let's bring in camera 2 while we're at it.
Portland have now ratcheted up their anti-administration tactics, going so far as to bring in neon leotards. This is real video from an 80s-themed peaceful protest party outside an ICE facility in Oregon. Acting ICE Director Todd Lyons joins us now. When these neon leotards showed up, did anybody just self-deport?
No, not really, Peter. It gave us a good chuckle. I'd rather have pink neon than rocks and paint cans thrown at us, so I'll take that any day of the week. It kind of breaks up the violence we're seeing, right?
Yeah, no, that's good progress. We like to see that. We also got some news overnight about the latest operation to round up dangerous illegal immigrants. It is in Charlotte. It's called Charlotte's Web. That follows Florida's Operation Dirtbag. Who comes up with the names of these operations?
We have a great team that does it, but Secretary Noem, she came up with Operation Dirtbag, and she's proud of that operation. That just
what a
shows
name!
What state partnership does. You look at 230 or more, illegal aliens that were lawfully already deported, ordered deported, yet they were still here, doing crimes, violent crimes, child sex offenders, molesters, predators, right? More than 150. So it's a great operation. Secretary Noem knows how to work with state governors, and that's what she's doing. And it was a great success for us.
And this Operation Dirtbag, people like it when predators are taken out of their neighborhoods. We have the stats here. 54 sexual predators, 164 offenders of sexual crimes, 2 convicted murderers, 1 convicted drug trafficker, 8 who were convicted of other felonies. Is there going to be something like Operation Dirtbag outside of Florida soon?
Yeah, you're going to see it all over, Peter, right? Because kind of like you said, no one can argue with us for taking out a sex offender out of their neighborhood. That's what ICE is doing. ICE is doing a public safety mission, and these are the people that people should want out of their neighborhoods. So you're going to see any local jurisdiction, a state jurisdiction, county sheriff that wants to work with us, just like the great partnership we have in Florida. We're going to do it nationwide. You're going to see more operations like that.
Next, this is a crazy story. California has now admitted that they've issued at least 17,000 commercial driver's licenses to illegal immigrants. They are now being canceled because nobody knows that these truck drivers can even read street signs in English. Listen to this.
17,000?
We have an extreme public safety crisis on our roads. And the root of all of it is unvetted, unqualified, unsafe, non-citizen drivers behind the wheels of these big rigs.
Oh my
So
God.
what can ICE do to help get these illegal immigrant truckers with legal driver's licenses, at least for now, off the road?
Peter, what we've been doing is working with our state partners. We have a great relationship with the governor of Oklahoma, governor of Texas, governor of Indiana. We've seen a lot of great successes out there. During Operation Midway Blitz, we worked with the Indiana State Police, and we got so many of these illegal aliens that had these valid CDL licenses, and we see so many innocent American lives being taken by these dangerous weapons, which these huge 18-wheelers that go in 75 miles down the road. It's pretty much a missile, right? So ICE is working with all of our state and local dedicated to make sure that no more American lives are lost. So something senseless as sanctuary jurisdictions giving, CDL licenses to, your point, people that can't read or write, can't speak English, shouldn't even be on the road in the first place.
And then there was this week. President Trump, we know his MO. He is the biggest champion of ICE, the main agency enforcing his top priority, which is immigration. But these deportations, we learned this week, are not necessarily as black and white as we thought.
In Georgia, they raided because they wanted illegal immigrants out. They had people from South Korea that made batteries all their lives. Making batteries are very complicated. It's not an easy thing. They had like 500 or 600 people, early batteries, and to teach people how to do it. Well, they wanted them to get out of the country. You're going to need that, Laura. I mean, I know you and I disagree on this.
So based on what the president was saying there, are all ICE raids created equally, or is the president changing the policy a little?
No, every ICE raid is different, right? We're based on criminal intelligence, we're based on foreign intelligence. So we look at every case as a whole, right? So a lot of times on our cases, we come from intelligence gain from local and state police department. But, immigration law is almost as convoluted and, crazy as tax law. So we have to deep look into every case, and we really look at the facts. We said we're going to focus on the worst of the worst, but we're also going to make sure if you're here in the country legally, we're going to get you out. And to the employers to employ and attract a lot of these illegal aliens that come in and steal American jobs, we're going to focus on those American companies as well.
Well, you guys have been as busy as any of the government agencies since President Trump got back. I know you've got a lot going on. Acting Director Todd Lyons, thank you for being here.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And
I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News.
Pause this out and just keep it moving.
You may not have seen, in our solar system, there has been an object the size of Manhattan called Atlas 3I passing through. A lot of experts think it's a big
3I Atlas.
That may not be the case.
Not Atlas 3I.
Harvard's top guy on this joins us. Dr. Avi Loeb, what else could this be?
Well, thanks for having me. I'm joining you from the Harvard College Observatory. Behind me, there is a telescope that is nearly 200 years old. Well, it could be that it was sent by some intelligent civilization elsewhere in the Milky Way galaxy. The fundamental question is whether Elon Musk was the most accomplished space entrepreneur since the Big Bang, 13.8 billion years ago. And there are so many stars out there, 100 billion of them, and many of them, 10% or so, have a planet the size of technologies like us a long time ago, billions of years ago. And so the question is, are they out there? And the best way to find out is to check for any spacecraft that may enter from outside. And lo and behold, it was a big object. Wanted to have a reconnaissance mission towards the planet. The sun, it had national acceleration, meaning that there was some force acting on it in addition to gravity, and it looks really weird. There are several
and so when you talk about these anomalies and non-gravitational movement, the argument, and you write a lot about this on your blog, is that you think it's possible this big Manhattan-sized object could have like a thruster on it.
Right. We do see 7 jets coming from it. Some are directed at the sun and some are pointed away from the sun. And it's not clear what is the origin of these jets. And one possibility is that it's pockets of ice on the surface of a rock. But another is that these are thrusters, and they go 1 million kilometers in all directions. And that's quite unusual. And the good news is that we can collect a lot of data in the coming weeks. It will get closest to Earth on December 19th, about a week before the holidays. And let's just hope that it will not send any unwanted gifts to Earth.
And so when you talk about unwanted gifts, what you're basically describing is like a mothership with probes potentially. What would some other civilization want here on Earth or with us Earthlings?
Well, it's hard to tell, right? Because it's a blind date of interstellar proportions. And my advice on a blind date, and by the way, I met my wife on a blind date, is that you should observe the other side before having an opinion. And all I'm asking, the foundation of science is the humility to learn. It's not the arrogance of expertise, the way that most academics brag. We should use it as an opportunity to learn of what lies beyond the solar system.
And should people watching this, who are just hearing about Atlas 3I for the first time, be worried?
Not at this time. I would think that based on the data we have, most likely it's a natural comet. However, there is some significant anomalies that accompany it. And as a result, it could be a black swan event. We all know about the Trojan horse story, where the residents of the city of Troy welcomed something that looked completely innocent. So in a black swan event, you better take seriously the potential risks and monitor the visitor. And that's my hope. That's what I'm advocating for. And actually, NASA is supposed to release a high-resolution image of this object when it came very close to Mars on October 3rd this year. It was within 29 million kilometers. The United States has a lot of stars on its flag. And my point is that the United States should not just be a beacon of light to all nations on Earth. It should be a beacon of light to all civilizations in the Milky Way galaxy. And so, we should explore space, lead the way for humanity to figure out what lies out there.
And based on what you were describing, this could soon be the biggest story in the world, literally the biggest story in the universe. And so, Dr. Loeb, thank you so much for being here. Depending on what these NASA pictures show, we might have to have you back soon.
Thank you.
This is my problem with that. The fact that NASA is not releasing these pictures screams cover up. Something really big is passing by, and they don't want us to focus on it. So what they do, they distract you. And what they distract you with, a lot of bullshit, a lot of news, a lot of old news. You know where I'm going to go with this. Epstein, the distraction of the century, which should be 3i Atlas, but nope, it's Epstein. Epstein. I hope that craft throws something at us and blow this planet up, because we don't deserve to live here. All right, let's keep it moving, because we got some more news to intake here. So let me set this up. Here we go.
They're calling it Operation Charlotte's Web. It's in full swing in North Carolina and already seeing impressive results.
But despite the success, hundreds gathered in protest over the weekend to push back against the operation.
Madison Scarpino is in Charlotte, North Carolina. She's got the latest from there for us. Hi, Madison.
Good morning, you guys. The feds are hoping to get as many criminal illegal immigrants off the streets as they can, and they're already making progress with dozens and dozens of arrests since Saturday. And these arrests are happening in several areas around Charlotte, as the mission is to ensure Americans are safe and remove public safety threats, according to DHS. Border Patrol Commander Gregory Bavino says they arrested 81 illegal migrants in just 5 hours, and we're expecting that number to grow significantly. Bavino says most of those arrested have a, quote, significant criminal and immigration history, and he says those crimes range from assault, larceny, hit and runs to DUIs. Here's former acting ICE Director Ron Vitello. Listen.
They are absolutely going after the worst of the worst. People who are in the country illegally, have a final order of deportation, post-due process, if you will, and have committed other crimes in the United States. Heinous crimes. That's the targeting that is underway.
But many Charlotte residents and local officials say these operations are causing unnecessary fear and uncertainty. As you can see in this video, many people are angry about CBP being here. And on Saturday, hundreds gathered around protest Operation Charlotte's Web. And many of those protesters say immigrants are now living in fear.
So then you go home.
Immigrants, you know, it's not okay.
They can go to the country.
If they're gonna make it home or not, you know, it's just not okay what they're doing right now.
Yo, pull up a face
small
recognition
protest yesterday outside of a
and
local
track
DHS
this
office.
girl's parents.
We know that 2 people were arrested, but right now it's unclear what for. But as you guys can imagine, things are changing quickly here on the ground, and we're watching it all. Back to you.
All right, Madison, thank you very much. Shows you how things are changing fast there, Brian.
Yes, I would get those police blotters up quickly so people think and will understand that they're not targeting Hispanic people or Central and South American people. And for that young girl, her parents have nothing to worry about if they're here legally. That's
Exactly.
the problem. And if they had committed a crime besides
If they're here illegally,
then
then they're gone.
Hard. And that's just it. You could get mad at ICE, but what ICE is doing is trying to correct what President Biden did, probably intentionally. He let about 10 to 15 million people here illegally, and they're spread out across the country, many of which have criminal records. And it's a lot easier to let them in than it is to round them up. And this is the part when they're rounding them up. But they have to also do communications to express to the American people that these people are not being targeted. It's criminals that are being scooped up.
There is also one component of this that the left could help minimize. If you would just offer up the people that are in custody right now, then ICE wouldn't have to surge resources into your neighborhood. If you want to have an impact on this and you want the people that are working on farms and working in hospitality to have a shot and go through the legal process, then the people that are in custody, that's the easy way to get the numbers up. The people that are in custody, just turn them to ICE. When they have a detainer put on someone, just allow them to scoop them up. But they won't do that, Sandra.
You know, they're saying that the protesters on the ground are saying that this operation is causing unnecessary fear and uncertainty. Well, tell that to the victims of crimes of illegal migrants, illegal criminal migrants, some of who have felony assaults, DUIs, felony larceny. These are the people that they are taking off the street and further attempting to take off the streets there.
Very much a purple state. And keep in mind, there's a big Senate race right now when you have the governor who was really reasonably popular, Cooper, when he left. And then you got Michael Whatley, who ran the RNC. So they're going to, Whatley's going to embrace this. And he's going to say, no, I'm for this. And Cooper's going to go the other direction. So people in North Carolina are really going to have a choice to make.
Yep.
All right, Operation Charlotte's Web underway.
I'm Steve Doocy. I'm Brian Kilmeade.
If your parents got here and they came into this country illegally, then yes, you have to worry. Might as well pack your bags and get ready to leave. Now, if you're here legally and you got your green card and you live here and paying taxes here, no problems, no worries. Don't stress. You'll be fine. You know, if ICE comes and questions you, you just give them the information, show them the information, and, you know, they'll apologize and say, you know, sorry for interrupting you. You know, we got to vet everybody that we come across, and that's it. You know, it's a problem that they let them in, and then it's a problem trying to get them out. It's like, it wasn't a problem letting them in. They all came in illegally. They all ran in illegally, and now they're begging to stay, and they cannot stay. They got to go back home. So it's going to be very chaotic times. It's just going to be very crazy times. Just sit back and relax and enjoy the show. That's all I can say, you know, because it's only going to get worse. It's not going to get better. What do you expect? It to get better? Ain't gonna get better. It's only gonna get worse. Here we go.
Well, Wall Street billionaires are scrambling for a plan B after far-left Zoran Mamdani's mayoral victory. Business titans, including Steve Schwartzman, Jamie Dimon, Larry Fink, they met privately with President Trump at the White House and reportedly expressed interest in backing Elise Stefanik for governor in 2026. A Stefanik win could derail Mamdani's high-tax, freebie-laden socialist agenda. Meanwhile, President Trump says a meeting with Mamdani is in the works.
The mayor of New York, I will say, would like to meet with us and we'll work something out. But he would like to come to Washington and meet, and we'll work something out. We want to see everything work out well for New York.
Well, Jerry, I very much wish that I could be, somebody serving drinks or something at the meetings, see what was being said there. Although it was interesting, he'll meet with anybody and he'll also be constructive with anybody, even somebody he called a commie during the campaign.
It's great they're talking.
So what do you, can he,
It's great they're
can
talking.
the president do some good here? Can he change Mamdani's mind at all?
Hell no.
Okay,
I don't think
what's going to happen?
There's only the big fist. There's only that I'm withholding dollars until
You think that's going to be it? That's the whole meeting.
But that's the whole meeting. But I'm more interested in the bankers coming and kneeling before the king and saying, please help us get rid of Mamdani or blunt his impact, do something, bring in Elise Stefanik, get behind her, put her in the governor's mansion. I do wish, though, that these bankers would have the same message out of both sides of their mouth, because privately they're saying, we've got to get rid of Mamdani, but publicly they're saying, well, we're so glad to meet you, Mr. Mamdani, and, welcome to New York, welcome to leadership in this big, fine city. I think they
you want no more Mr. Nice Guy. You want them to say out loud what they say.
I think what's going on is they have a lot of people who are consumers of their business products who are in that age category, even here in New York City, who voted for Mamdani, and they're trying to make those people happy. I just think that if what they really feel is anxiety over this, they should communicate it publicly.
Taylor, what do you think?
Love the conversation. There's the saying, friends closer, enemies closer. So if they want to have a conversation, great. I don't think that Trump would cave due to some little conversation with Mamdani and be like, okay, you're right. Great meeting. Here's the money. So
while we're on
let's have a meeting. Maybe Trump can tell him, this is a city I love. Here are the ends.
Yeah.
I'm happy to watch you fail. Or here's, in my business experience, here's what works. Maybe Mamdani listens, maybe he doesn't. And then may the best man win, may the best policy win. And we will see which policy keeps New York on top or not. So I'm actually happy that they're having a conversation. Let's see how it goes.
What do you think, Tegan?
Disagree with Larry Kudlow. Stefanik, if she wins the governorship, isn't going to fix problems all the problems that would potentially be created by Zoran Mamdani as the mayor of New York City. And I hate this behind the scenes dealing nonsense.
Is it a argument the whole city when that happens? The backroom stuff.
Like they should be standing side by side and supporting President Trump. Like Dimon, he's not a Republican. And the central issue will be crime. And I've said this before. What will drive revenue into the toilet is if Zoran Mamdani does not fight crime. Jesse Tisch,
Supposedly she didn't say what she was saying or not.
Up in the going to be heard about people who are actively campaigning for the job. Nah, they're okay. I've heard about this from former police officers. They're okay, but they are starting to sound and speak like Mamdani about letting people out of prison, that will drive tourist revenue away. That will drive hotel revenue. And where are these CEOs going to be when crime goes up and they're putting their employees at risk?
Yeah.
That's my central issue is crime. And the governor can't, well, really do anything about it other than jawbone the mayor.
Can I make just a very quick point? We were in London last week, listening to their news. The country just got rid of all of their police commissioners. They're just going to let, the mayor and the councils run the police departments, run the issue of crime in that country. Imagine that. Is that where we're going next? I don't think Great Britain is an example you want to follow.
All right, Jackie, can the president straighten out Mamdani? What's he going to do here?
I'll get to that
Okay.
in 1 second.
All right.
I want to make a comment on the bankers, which is that most of them lean left, and it's usually for the purposes, if you look in their commentary, of social justice. That's because they make so much money that if they have to pay a little more, they don't really see it in their bottom line. But they should have been thinking about this all along, because as we've slowly been moving, and it doesn't happen overnight, and each progressive candidate becomes more and more left-leaning and more radical, this is how you end up with a Mamdani. So to be upset about it now, but to have been on that side promoting it the whole time is a little hypocritical for me. So that's one piece of this. On the Trump Mamdani thing, I don't know if you guys saw the exchange live in Florida on the tarmac before Trump got on Air Force One last night. He made some really important points on the economy. He was talking about sanctions on countries that do business with Russia. He was talking about Venezuela and the drug trade and all these different things, but he was hysterical with the reporters. There was one reporter and he literally said to her, "What outlet are you from?" And she said, and he said, "Oh, yeah, okay." And I'm paraphrasing here, not exactly, but he said something like, "You're a horrible reporter." And he called somebody else out. And we were sitting on set last night. We were laughing. I mean, he was just in rare form. So where am I going with this? Mamdani's not going to come into his office and, not be called out, especially it's not in public, it's behind closed doors. So if he says something completely ridiculous, he is going to be called out, I believe, to the nth degree by a president who really doesn't mince words when he's thinking something. It just comes right out of his mouth. I think Trump is going to read him the riot act.
You think he's going to walk out of there with eyes wide like a deer in the headlights?
He's going to get Zelensky'd.
Okay.
At least his go-to is smiling, apparently. So when Trump is mocking him openly to his face and ribbing him, like shivving him between the ribs, figuratively, he can just smile like, "Oh my God, I can't believe it. He's doing this to me." Oh, and he's just going to shrink on the inside. I can't wait.
It'll be a Mamdani grimace in the Oval Office.
It just makes you wonder. It makes you wonder why all these distractions. Because I this is what I watch throughout the day, and then I pick up on all the distractions. And then have you noticed they're constantly repeating themselves, and they're faking their emotions, and it's so easy to pick up the bullshit that they're pushing onto the people. Like, society right now should be focusing on that 3-eye atlas. That's like the biggest beautiful sign that's telling us that there's so much out there, and we had some body of object come through our solar system and it's passing through our universe. And it's going faster than what Earth moves and faster than any planet here. This is so crazy. But yet, NASA doesn't even have any pictures for us to see. It makes you wonder. The same bullshit, same game, same shit is happened then, it's happening now. They're going with the same playbook. You'll never get the truth. You're not owed the truth. You don't deserve the truth. And that's what they think. It's not for you to know. And as important as that 3-eye atlas is, It's none of your damn motherfucking business. And the media is proving it to me because they're not really reporting on it. Very little reports on it. I wish that motherfucker was to come straight to here, like does a little like turn and comes like directly towards Earth, just to see what the news would start saying and how crazy the media will get with President Trump about three-eye atlas coming towards us, and Trump has to save the world. What are you gonna do? Are you gonna test your nukes on the three-eye atlas? The media is just stupid. I mean, if Earth is gonna blow up, it's gonna blow up, no matter who's president, who's in charge. The only person who's in charge is God, and if He wants us all to come home together, so be it. You know what I mean? It's that's happened before. It can happen again. It's just like history keeps repeating itself. Do we learn? No. So we start all over again. Like it's just, how many times this planet has gone and over our lifespan, how many changes, and how the weather and how like disasters change history and change the flow of history. And we still are going through these little disasters, and now we just have a added flair, and that's propaganda. The news, the news that they only want you to know, the news that they only want you to see and pay attention to. I love watching these news articles and news stories because I'm like, wow, so much distraction, and the people eat it up. People eat it up. People eat up, and you see how they divide us because it's the divide and conquer. Democrats, Republicans, two sides, divided. It's easier to conquer. The ones who suffer are the people because we're the stupid ones. Like they don't respect us. They don't care about us. Michael Jackson even told you this, and you still did not even listen. It's so crazy. Anyhow, let's see what else is up in the news. Let's see what else we got here. Okay. Set it up. All right, here we go.
Secretary of Agriculture, Brooke Rollins. Secretary, great to see you. Thank you so much for being here this morning. We've got so much to get to with you, and I want to get your take first off on that prediction from the CEO of Omaha Steaks. What is meat going for right now? $4 or $5 a pound? He's talking about $10.
Well, that's right. And I sure look forward to talking to him. I saw him on your show. We had it on in the office on Friday. I thought he was very well spoken. I do believe, though, that his forecast is not going to be correct. Of course, no one knows really. But the idea that we won't get prices down until 2027, I think there are a couple of important factors here, Maria. The first is this, that we are suffering from the last administration's literal war on cattle. If you remember, they wanted to reduce the herd sizes because they believed that cattle caused climate change. I mean, that wasn't that long ago that was sort of a common narrative. Yeah. So lots and lots of issues there as we rebuild the herd based on the devastation of the last administration's policy. The second thing is that there is no doubt, because of drought and that reason and others, that we are at a low herd size. Now, you marry that to the fact that we have 8% increase in protein beef demand.
And a lot of immigrants here that are eating.
It's extremely healthy. And as Secretary Kennedy and I move toward releasing the new dietary guidelines and pivoting a lot of the food, the government file or USDA, you're going to see even more and more demand for beef. Then on top of that, we've got the screwworm south of the border. So our ports have been closed almost since the late spring, where we haven't been moving about 1 million head of cattle across the border of Mexico, New Mexico, Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona from Mexico. And again, you're in this perfect storm that we're in. But the Trump administration has released a new plan. We are moving toward opening up 5 million acres of grazing land. We're obviously at some point soon going to be reopening the borders. We've got screwworm under control south of the border. Still a couple more things before we get there, but we're getting close. And the president is hyper focused on this. So our numbers and our formulas are showing that prices will start coming down as soon as next spring and certainly by summer and fall of next year.
Well, thank you for that explanation. That was very good and, of course, understandable as far as what's going on here. I think meat right now is going for about $6 a pound. So we'll see about that prediction. But what about the soybean purchases, Secretary? I mean, China is now reportedly slow walking the American soybean purchases. Look, they've done this before, but Trump had that 6 weeks as China's stockpiles surged to multi-year highs. Brazil now supplying nearly 80% of the imports. Analysts say Beijing is using soybeans as a geopolitical bargaining chip as American farmers wait for the 12 million tons China committed to buy. Are you expecting them to resume the purchases of soybeans, or are they going to double cross us on that as well?
They've already started the purchases of soybeans. They've agreed for responses to buy 12 million tons, 25 million tons for the next 3 years after that. So a total of 87 million. And then we have lots of other trade agreements that call for soybean purchases. I do believe it's very unfortunate they made pawns out of our great soybean farmers, but we believe that we have remedied that. If you look, prices of soybeans are way up. This meeting in Korea, I think that
document by Thanksgiving. It could be that that's why we see this slow walking. But what are your thoughts on the soybean purchase?
You know, I certainly listened with interest, and I talked to Scott a lot. He is an incredible leader for this administration and for the president's vision. Our entire cabinet, I know you and I've talked about, is just hand in glove on all of these issues. It's such a joy to work with Scott and the entire cabinet, and of course the president. I believe that what Scott is saying is 100% right. The president has said over and over that he will not leave our soybean farmers and frankly our farmers in general out in the cold on this. He has been absolutely resolute and almost a dog on a bone, making sure that our soybean farmers and other farmers.
And this girl got a big
are
forehead.
at the top of all these trade deals, and certainly Secretary Besant has.
Every time I see her, I see that
listened
forehead.
with interest to Scott over the weekend with you and last week, saying
Not
we're
trying to
still
be
very
rude, but
confident
man,
that when the Chinese committed to
looks
buying
like a
12
Klingon.
metric tons, that they are going to do that 12 million. And so I see that moving more than to buy a little. I think the nervous comes in is that 12 million is a lot. And we've already, I think, just got about 330,000 out. But we'll get there. And I think the president has said over and over his relationship with President Xi is very strong. Secretary Besant, we're going to get that deal signed. It's not even signed yet. And then we're off to the races. So I think that's what we're going to see very soon.
Yeah, I mean, look, I know President Trump loves the farmers. I love when he talks about the farmers. He really wants to ensure that they're getting a fair shot. Look, let's talk about the reopening of government. Secretary SNAP benefits flowing again after the 43-day shutdown left millions waiting for their November payments. What can you tell us about the resumption of business? The USDA said all eligible families getting their full benefits today, while the Trump administration announces an overhaul of that program. You're requiring every SNAP participant to reapply as part of a crackdown on fraud. You pointed out data from 29 states showing 186,000 deceased individuals were still receiving benefits. 120 people under arrest for fraud so far. On top of that, New York requirements and a $186 billion budget cut also.
And I'm going to attach my doctor's notes.
Somebody died and
to the
their heirs started. What happened?
It's just incredible. And, you know, within the first hour of me being sworn in February, this was one of my very first things that we did. We sent a letter to every state. Business as usual is over. The status quo is no more. We know that the SNAP program is fraud, but it's all anecdotal. This was last February, that we have no data. How is it true that the taxpayers through the federal government fund this $100 billion program every single year, but we don't even know whether it's being done correctly, what the accountability looks like? We want that data ourselves. As I mentioned, 29 states complied, mostly the red states. And what we have found since we started getting that data late spring of this year is just stunning. As you mentioned, 186,000 deceased individuals receiving benefits, 500,000 people getting more than two times the benefit. So they're getting it in one place and then they're getting it in another place. The same person. We found thousands of individuals that were getting benefits in 3 to 4 or 5, 6 different states. I mean,
That's
it is
crazy.
one thing after another. And this is just from the red states. Can you imagine when we get through litigation and get that data from California, New York, Oregon? We know under Biden, the program increased 40%. Of course, we believe they were trying to buy the election by
Holy
pushing more and
shit.
more money out without any accountability. So this is what we're trying to bring under control. And listen, we all knew it was going to be a really big deal. We knew that it was stunning what was happening. But what the shutdown did, that sort of unintended consequence of Democrats shutting down the government over the last 43, 45 days, is that one of their favored programs is now in the eye of the average everyday American who says, this is not okay. Go fix this. My taxpayer dollars should not be spent for this sort of fraud and abuse, and taking it out of the mouths of families that really need the program. There are vulnerable families in America that need this program that aren't getting it because of the fraud and the abuse that now we're going to work to fix.
Unbelievable. I mean, at a minimum, it's embarrassing that nobody looked at this. And it's just like on autopilot, right? And you have to wait for the Trump administration to come in and start looking under every rock. And I would also say it's a massive dereliction of duty, not just from the last administration, but from Congress. How does this happen?
It is absolutely remarkable. And I remember, Maria, going through the confirmation process. And when I did, and I had great conversations with all the Democrats on the Senate Ag Committee. I mean, I was voted 22-0 out of committee. So had really good conversations about the importance of this program. But so many of those Democrats in the Senate Ag Committee would say, we need more money for SNAP. We need more money for SNAP. And I remember sitting in that meeting and saying, I just can't believe that's true. The amount of money that's being spent. This was before, obviously, I'd taken the job and was sworn in and confirmed. But even in those initial conversations, I had seen the growth in the program and knew that just couldn't be correct. But now that the hood is up on the car, the lid has been taken off, it's a whole new day. And I'm excited about it. But I think we're going to be able to serve the taxpayers. We're going to be able to serve, the entire country and make the government better, but also serve those families that actually need this program. And that's what's been lost in all of this.
Well, you needed a business sentiment in there. I mean, having a businessman in the Oval Office has a lot of implications and impact. Secretary, that's great. Good to see you this morning. Thank you. Brooke Rollins this morning. Thank you so much. All right, we'll see you soon.
That was really good.
Zoran Mamdani hasn't even been sworn in.
Plus it's off because let's come over here. Let me set up the next story. I think you're gonna need a passport to go to New York City because there's all foreigners there. It's like you living in another country now. New York is not the same. It's not the same. New York has a lot of problems. A lot of problems. And we're going to watch this experiment crash and burn. And it sucks because I live right next to New York. Oh, Lord, help us. All right, let's watch some more news.
We have nothing to do with Epstein. The Democrats do. All of his friends were Democrats. You look at this Reid Hoffman, you look at Larry Summers, Bill Clinton, they went to his island all the time, and many others. They're all Democrats. All I want for people to recognize the great job that I've done on pricing, on affordability, because we brought prices way down, but they're going way lower, on energy, on ending 8 wars and another one coming pretty soon, I believe.
I don't care about their little jingle. All right, let's move on to another story because I don't care about their little jingle.
Thing that should make you even more alarmed, that our own army is short of even ammunition, being bled dry by the Albanese government. It's also something that should make you even more that this government is also making electricity supplies so shaky and expensive that there is no way that we will get ahead in artificial intelligence, which needs so much electricity that companies like Microsoft, which are getting into it, plan to have their own nuclear reactors. Now, you might have thought it cute when China revealed it had dancing robots. I mean, so advanced. But did you really think that China was developing robots just to dance? This year, a Chinese company unveiled a robot that can also do kung fu, that potentially can fight. And last week, China's People's Liberation Army released a video of army exercises. And look at the stars, robot wolves, armed and fighting alongside human soldiers. Now, China first unveiled an early version of this new weapon a couple of years ago, but this latest model looks more rugged and advanced. It is still steered by pilots, but wait until these robot wolves get artificial intelligence so that they can fight independently, identifying and targeting their own targets using their independent judgment. And if you think talk of Chinese attacks, well, it's all alarmist, warmonger, check out the warning posted by China's foreign ministry just last week after Japan's prime minister suggested Japan would defend Taiwan from a Chinese invasion. I'll translate it for you. It was actually in Japanese, warning Japan any attempt to provoke the bottom line of the Chinese people will inevitably be met with a severe counterattack from China. Their heads will be split open and they will be covered in blood. A Chinese consul in Japan even warned Japan's leader on X that China wouldn't hesitate to cut off a dirty neck. I really don't think many Australians realise how threatening our neighbourhood has got. The way I sometimes see politics is like, it's all being played for domestic games, like the rest of the world doesn't really exist. We can just muddle them on, do little playground fights in Canberra, and it doesn't have any consequence. Joining me back at last from his break, the country's top foreign affairs writer, Greg Sheridan of The Australian. Greg, great to see you back. Isn't it extraordinary to have the world's second biggest superpower threatening to cut off the head of Japan's female prime minister and to split Japan's head wide open and cover it with blood? What kind of country acts and talks like that?
Well, Andrew, it's great to be with you. And you're right to highlight this. When the Chinese talk to each other or talk to the Japanese or the Koreans or sometimes the Filipinos or sometimes us, they speak in very harsh tones, very, very harsh tones. Xi Jinping routinely tells his troops to prepare for war. Now, Andrew, you're right to highlight this robot capability. We've been discussing, and I've been writing for years, about the absolute hopeless position of the Australian Defence Force in terms of drone capabilities. We're seeing in Ukraine what drones can do and how adaptable and fast they are. They're kind of, in a sense, primitive robots, and they're not yet powered by AI. And we're nowhere in this. We're just, on the tiniest fringe, we're doing almost nothing in drones because all of our defence budget is taken up with the AUKUS subs, and the Albanese government won't spend any significant money on defence. So we have almost no missiles and almost no drones, certainly nothing that could counter the Chinese. We just depended entirely on the Americans. So the Albanese government is winning the politics at the moment, but You couldn't imagine a government doing a worse job across every sphere of Australian interest, military, economic, social, the whole lot.
Well, one of them is, of course, climate change policies, global warming policies. And I want to segue from exactly this, the electronic wolves, which highlights something. As I said, look, in another decade, can you imagine? They'll have war robots that are going to have artificial intelligence, so they can fight without even an operator. You just chuck them out the battlefield and they'll go and sort it all out themselves. Meanwhile, we don't have enough electricity for an artificial intelligence industry of our own to sort of combat that capability. And with Labor's net zero policies, I doubt we'll even have enough electricity for our existing economy. What do you make of the net zero argument, given that sort of context?
Well, I think you're absolutely right, Andrew. And I want to congratulate the Liberal and National parties. They've taken a big step, and it's a good step. You know, we're so used to the Liberals making a mess of everything. We should recognise a moment when they do something right. I've got a column in tomorrow's paper pointing out that the Liberal National Party policy is now far more in step with what's happening internationally. The whole world, including The Economist magazine as recently as August, has said, basically, net zero is a fiction, it's a folly, it's a fantasy, and it'll never happen. And trying to get there imposes ludicrous costs on an economy. Therefore, let's dispense with net zero. We'll still try to reduce emissions a bit, although China and India and the big emitters are not doing that. But nonetheless, we'll still try to reduce emissions a bit. What you're seeing is the addition of enormous amounts of renewable energy on top of fossil fuels. The International Energy Agency just released its World Energy Outlook for 2024. In 2024, global emissions went up, so the world is not decarbonising. The world derived more energy from coal in 2024 than it ever has in the history of the human race. The use of coal has doubled in the last couple of decades. Everything the Albanese government tells us is baloney. Everyone knows, except official Australia, that fossil fuel energy is much cheaper than renewable energy. But the Labor Party has been so successful in setting up all of these climate quongos, which exist only to produce pro-maximum climate change action propaganda. All of their modelling is based on the most ropey possible assumptions. It doesn't gel with the studies and modelling that is done overseas. And the Liberal National Party policy today is much more in line with what's happening internationally and much more realistic than Labor's policy. The big question is whether the Liberals can actually wage a successful political fight over this. I mean, you yearn for Tony Abbott to be there because this campaign for the Liberals to succeed, it's not got to be about their policy. It's got to be about Labor's policy. It's got to be a very tough negative campaign. Net zero means job losses. Net zero means inflation. Net zero means industry fleeing Australia and going to China. The debate is there for the Liberals to win, just as it's been won in Britain and America. But whether they can do it, who knows?
Well, it requires conviction. It requires deep knowledge of the policy. And I must admit, Susan Lee has surprised me by showing some knowledge, far more than I gave her credit for. So give her that. But you also got to turn defence into attack. They've got to attack, because the ruins of Labor's net zero policies are all around us. And I don't know why it seemed to be a big tick that they're united in pursuing this. God, that's delusion. Greg Sheridan, I'm so glad you're back. And I urge viewers to read your column in the Australian tomorrow. Thank you so much indeed for your time.
Thanks.
All right, let's go ahead and keep it moving.
We also following some breaking news after a concrete wall collapses in Miami's Coconut Grove neighborhood.
We have learned one person was killed here.
What?
Let's go to reporter Rosh for us right now to the scene with the breaking details. Rosh?
Yeah, tragic scene here in Coconut Grove. I'm going to give you the story before we get to our video from Sky 10. Let me step out of the way here so I can give you the area where this is happening. You can see Miami police still on the scene here. This is a deadly construction accident. We are in the area near Southwest 22nd Avenue here. Now let's get to our video and I'll give you more of what we know. We know that a concrete wall collapsed here. Once again, this is in Miami's Coconut Grove area. We've learned that one person has died. We understand that this home was under construction, and when we get out of the Sky 10 video and we bring it back down here live, in fact, let's do that right now so I can give you a good visual of what's going on here. You see in the back portion, here are the walls. One of those walls collapsed on the construction worker. And we are told by witnesses that there was just this scream here. And this scream, they had people running to the area. Unfortunately, this person passed away. That is the area. It is a home under construction. Once again, the latest here from Coconut Grove is one person has died, a construction worker, a home under construction, a deadly scene here in Miami. For now, I'm live in Miami. Rosh Lowe, Local 10 News.
What a horrible way to die. Ugh. To have a wall collapse on you while you're working? Oh, man. That's tragic.
In today's top news, we're starting off with the increasing tensions between the U.S. and Venezuela.
That's right. The Trump administration is designating a Venezuelan cartel allegedly run by the country's president a foreign terrorist organization. Here are those details.
Is about protecting America from foreign terrorists.
The Department of State has announced it will designate the Venezuelan group known as the Cartel de los Soles as a foreign terrorist organization. Secretary of State Marco Rubio says the designation takes effect November 24th. The Trump administration alleges the organization is led by senior Venezuelan government figures, including President Nicolas Maduro, and involved in international cocaine smuggling. Maduro has denied these allegations. Rubio said Sunday the Cartel de los Soles is responsible for terrorist violence throughout the Western Hemisphere. The designation will expand federal authorities' ability to pursue the group. It makes it a federal crime for anyone in the U.S. to assist the cartel and other officials to freeze any assets. Trump was asked yesterday if the U.S. government can target assets inside Venezuela.
It allows us to do that, but we haven't said we're going to do that. And we may be having some discussions with Maduro, and we'll see how that turns out. They would like to talk.
The move comes after the Treasury Department earlier this year labeled the cartel a specially designated global terrorist. Secretary of the Treasury Scott Bessent says Sunday's action further exposes the Maduro regime's facilitation of narco-terrorism. The announcement comes as U.S. forces continue a series of military strikes on vessels they say are involved in narcotics smuggling. This weekend, the military carried out its 21st such operation, bringing the total casualty count to 83 people. U.S. Southern Command said Secretary of War Pete Hegseth ordered Saturday's strike in the Eastern Pacific, which targeted a vessel linked to a designated terrorist organization. Southern Command said the boat was smuggling narcotics along a known trafficking route. The military said 3 people on board were killed. U.S. military activity against suspected drug traffickers has expanded across waters near Venezuela and Colombia. President Trump has come under criticism from both Democrats and Republicans for not seeking congressional approval for these strikes. He explained his decision yesterday.
I said, go to Congress and let them know we're not letting drugs go. We're not letting them come through Venezuela, and let Congress.
Paul has described them as summary executions and extrajudicial killings. The Department of Justice has stated that military personnel involved in the strikes are not liable for prosecution.
Makes you wonder, what the hell is going on in this world? We're living such interesting times. Very, very interesting times. Let's see here. Just resizing a couple of videos here. All right. That's crazy. Okay, what's this? All right, let's check this story out.
So you've got this, a 17-year-old man arrested in Texas for allegedly attacking a woman with a hammer as that woman was jogging. We're now learning he's in the country illegally on an expired visa.
Oh,
In
Lord.
Texas, Brooke Taylor has the story now. Brooke, hello.
Expired visa?
Hi, Bill. Yeah, this is a busy and popular park. Already this morning, we've seen several people out alone on walks. Police say that a woman was on a jog when a man attacked her with a hammer. This all happened on Thursday around 5 p.m. The details here, they're disturbing. Plano police tell us the woman was hit in the head with the hammer several times. She managed to fight the man off and he ran away. 4 hours later, police had a suspect in custody. They arrested 17-year-old Sergio Noe de Nova Duerte, an illegal migrant from Mexico. According to DHS, he came in on a tourist visa, and then in March of 2024, he was arrested for burglary and larceny. He was arrested under the Biden administration and was released back into the community with a notice to appear. Now, the woman was taken to the hospital with serious injuries, but police say it could have been a lot worse because duct tape was found at the scene. Many people in this area are on high alert right now, looking out for one another.
We should walk up alone, right? I mean, there's always two of us or three.
And we know lots of people that are out here. So if we see somebody we don't know, then we avoid that area.
And the suspect is charged with kidnapping with bodily injury, and ICE has launched a detainer against him. I reached out to DHS, Bill. They just sent us this statement a few moments ago saying, quote, this criminal illegal alien should have never been loose in our communities to attack this woman jogging in a park with a hammer.
Wow.
Bill.
Really tough stuff there. Brooke Taylor, Plano, Texas. Thank you, Brooke.
Hey, everyone. I'm
That's
Emily
crazy.
Campagno. Catch me and my co-host
Emily.
Harris Faulkner.
Yeah. What else we got here? I'm telling you, it gets crazier and crazier. The stories every day, people continue making mistakes. I watch the news every day. I continue to watch everyone make mistakes every day. Every day, people make mistakes. And people lose their lives because of mistakes. It's just continuously to make mistakes. And what would Jesus think of us with all our mistakes? Yeah. What's this about?
Thank all of you for joining us here today at the Drug Enforcement Administration Rocky Mountain Field Division.
Yeah, it's a lot of drugs.
Giving attention to both the public safety and public health threat which fentanyl and those who traffic it continue to present to our community. Fentanyl remains the deadliest drug threat to face our country, and the state of Colorado is certainly not immune from the harm it has done and continues to do. Fentanyl is the leading cause of death for Americans between the ages of 18 and 45. At a national level, drug overdose deaths have declined from highs of around 110,000 deaths in 2022 and 2023 to the most recently released data of 73,690 reported deaths for the 12-month period ending April of 2025. Those numbers still equate to filling a professional football stadium on a Sunday afternoon. While it's a positive sign that both state and nationwide overdose deaths are trending downward, Denver County is seeing an increase in overdose deaths compared to last year, with many of those deaths involving fentanyl. Our DEA Rocky Mountain Field Division is on pace to seize a record amount of fentanyl for 2025, in no small part due to the record-breaking seizure presented here today. With a reminder that only 2 milligrams of fentanyl is considered a lethal dose, and DEA's one pill can kill messaging, here laid out before you is the Colorado state record for a single seizure of fentanyl, approximately 198 kilograms, or an estimated 1.7 million counterfeit fentanyl pills, along with an additional 12 kilograms of fentanyl powder. This marks the largest ever single seizure of fentanyl in the state of Colorado and the 6th largest ever in the United States. Let's be clear, this seizure represents thousands of lives saved. It is also in the Mexican cartel to direct traffic of fentanyl to Colorado, and the seizure has been tied to active DEA investigations involving federal, state, and local partners touching 6 different states as well as Mexico, targeting the Sinaloa cartel. We will continue to work with our partners to target them and their supply of deadly fentanyl in an effort to protect our communities and save lives. I am joined today by Douglas County Sheriff Darren Weekly, who's going to detail the origin of how this seizure came to be. He will then be followed by Colorado Bureau of Investigation Director Armando Saldate to share some of his insights on, and CBI's role in the larger investigation before I return to add some additional comments on our efforts on holding accountable those responsible for trafficking this poison into our nation. And with
That is a lot of motherfucking drugs. Holy shit. Look at all those bags.
Last Tuesday, November the 11th, our deputies were called to a store facility in Highlands Ranch. Someone had legally purchased through auction one of those storage units. And shortly after they inspected that unit, they realized there were illicit drugs inside, and they did the right thing. They immediately contacted the sheriff's office. When our deputies got there, they secured the area and confirmed that the unit contained several kilogram sized packages that look like illegal narcotics.
Oh my God.
Plus a huge number of M30 pills, the kind that are often counterfeit and often contain fentanyl. Now we'd like to show you a video of what happened when our deputies arrived on scene in the conversation.
But did you test the drug to make sure it was fentanyl? I'm sure it is fentanyl.
No, that's an absolute metric ton of fentanyl. I got a very unique situation here. A gentleman just bought a unit over here at the storage facility off of Johnstown, and it's got, yeah, that one's full of pills as well.
Oh my God.
It's got
wow.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 bricks that probably look like I haven't looked into those yet, but we're looking at a couple hundred bags of blue pills.
Holy shit. All right, pretty good graphics at the end. That's like some Transformers shit.
To put this into perspective, here's what we seized. 198 kilos, about 1.7 million counterfeit fentanyl pills.
Oh my God.
Another 12 kilos of fentanyl powder. Again, this is the largest single seizure of fentanyl in the history of the state of Colorado. We also seized 2.5 pounds of meth. I want to be clear that this citizen did exactly the right thing. The moment that he realized that something was wrong, he stopped, he stepped back, and contacted the authorities. Because of his actions, we were able to remove a significant amount of dangerous narcotics out of circulation. Drugs that could have easily made it to our streets and to our communities. To be clear, this reporting party undoubtedly saved countless lives, not only in Douglas County, but throughout Colorado and likely throughout our nation. This incident highlights the very clear and real danger that fentanyl poses to our community. Even in small amounts, fentanyl can be lethal. And it's hidden not only in counterfeit pills, it's hidden in storage units and hidden in many different forms. It's a serious threat, but I want to make something also very clear. We are dedicated to this crisis. Fentanyl and illegal illicit narcotics will not be tolerated in our communities. And particularly in the Douglas County Sheriff's Office, our deputies, our detectives, and our crime lab professionals are committed to keeping this community safe and we will remain relentless in that mission. I want to thank the citizen who reported this, the storage facility staff and the management for their cooperation, and the deputies who responded quickly and professionally. I would also like to thank our federal partner, the Drug Enforcement Administration, and CBI for the quick response and partnership. None of us can do this job alone. And now it's my pleasure to introduce the Director of the Colorado Bureau of Investigation, Armando Sedalte.
Good morning. Thank you for coming here today to discuss this record fentanyl seizure that highlights the ongoing efforts of law enforcement to combat drug trafficking in our communities. I'm happy to be joined by these partners here that are vital to this fight and the fight that we take every day to make our communities safer. This massive seizure just mentioned that we've just talked about represents over hundreds of pounds of fentanyl pills alone.
Wow.
While the CBI certainly does not take credit for this seizure that occurred in Douglas County from this storage locker, what I'm here today to talk to you about is how these drugs were directly associated with what started as a CBI investigation earlier this year into a drug trafficking organization operating here in Colorado. Earlier this year, a wiretap investigation involving many partners, including CBI, identified a major drug trafficking organization linked to the Sinaloa cartel that funneled drugs into Colorado, led by two brothers who led that drug trafficking organization. That investigation led to multiple arrests and drug seizures earlier this year, but obviously not all the drugs the group produced were found. It turns out the fentanyl you see today was sitting in a storage locker for months.
Wow.
We now know that storage locker belonged to a drug courier linked to this organization. Once the courier was arrested, the storage unit bill went unpaid. CBI agents conducted search warrants and identified suspects in connection with this drug trafficking ring.
Oh my
The sheer
God.
volume of drugs found in this storage locker indicates a very sophisticated operation, likely producing millions more pills. We extend our sincere gratitude to the Drug Enforcement Administration for their cooperation in our original joint investigation, and of course, the Douglas County Sheriff's Office for the storage unit's discovery and investigation following. These joint partnerships are crucial in identifying and dismantling drug rings, such as the one believed to be associated with this drug cartel. The seizure of these drugs represents countless lives saved, as these dangerous substances will never reach our communities. Our mission to get drugs off the streets and put drug traffickers behind bars and make Colorado safer remains as vital as ever. Thank you.
That's crazy. That's a lot of drugs.
Sheriff Weekly, Director Saldate, and also joined by our Rocky Mountain High Director, Keith Weiss.
All right, they're just gonna keep going over the praising the stuff. So let's keep moving because we got more news to go.
Officials doubling down on their mission to find missing children, with Operation Home for the Holidays rescuing 122 kids in what is being called the largest child recovery operation in U.S. history. Joining me now with the details, Florida Attorney General James Othmeyer. AG, this is a beautiful story, the fact that these 122 souls have been rescued, but it is disgusting what people do to children. What can you tell us about this operation?
Sure. Well, here in Florida, protecting our kids, keeping them safe, that is mission number one. So today's announcement is great. It's been an honor to support our state law enforcement and really the leadership of the U.S. Marshals under Marshal William Berger. They've done a great job rescuing these kids. They range in ages from 17 all the way down to 2 years old, and many of them have been through the unthinkable. They've been exploited, they've been endangered, and in the worst of cases, they've been physically, sexually abused. Here in Florida, our prosecutors, if you hurt our kids, we will go after you to the absolute fullest. We will lock you up for as long as possible. And where eligible, we will seek the death penalty.
How did you hunt down these child predators?
It takes a coordinated effort working across dozens of agencies, from the Florida Department of Law Enforcement to juvenile justice, children and families, our local police departments. We work together, many undercover, working across the state using technology to find these kids that were previously reported missing. The largest U.S. child rescue operation in history. We'll stay at it. We're going to get these kids the care and therapy and treatment they need to get them back on the road to recovery.
I know in previous operations, many of the perpetrators were here illegally. Was that the case in this latest operation?
Details are still coming out. I'm not aware of that at this point, but I will say every time we do child predator stings, it seems like around 20% or so are people that are in the country illegally. It shows how much crime and trafficking and drug abuse has really moved over the southern border. I'm glad the southern border is finally closed. But where you traffic kids in Florida, you will be held accountable to the fullest.
Where do these children go now? Are they reunited with families? Do they go into this system? What happens next?
That's the question, right? I mean, these kids, many of them are runaways. A lot of them have been exploited, some coming out of the foster care program. Now's the real question for state leaders. We've got to give them the love, the treatment, the care they need. We've got to find them loving homes that are going to support them and not continue to endanger them. So you better believe our state leaders are going to be working on that as we rescue these kids. That's not the end. That's truly just the beginning. They need our prayers. They need our love. They need to be set up for success.
How widespread is child trafficking, not just in Florida, but throughout our country?
I think it's a lot more prevalent than people realize. Where there's money, where there's drug cartels and networking, you're going to have trafficking. You've got a lot of runaways out there. You've got a lot of these missing, immigrant children that have been abused repeatedly for years. So it's prevalent. It's out there. In Florida, our number one priority is to keep our kids safe. We're going to combat it every day. And thanks be to God, we have federal and state partners that are side by side with us in this effort.
All my questions to you thus far were in your role as AG. Now I want you to put on your dad hat for a second. You're a dad, I'm a dad. Can you wrap your head around how any sick individual can harm and exploit a child?
Yeah, it's gut-wrenching. I mean, I knew we had good results today, so last night I was overjoyed, but still had trouble sleeping, thinking about, kids as young as 2 or 3 years old being victimized and abused. It's horrific that there are people out there that are willing to do that. Those people, they cannot be reconditioned, in my opinion. They are sick, they're evil, and they need the fullest force of prosecution coming at them. So as a dad, first and foremost, people in Florida can rest assured I'm going to fight every day to protect our kids with absolutely everything we've got.
Well, thank you for that on behalf of the voiceless, those children. Thank you for giving them a voice. Florida Attorney General James Uffmeyer, keep it up. We appreciate it.
Yeah, keep doing good work. All right, let's keep it moving.
Expected to happen on December the 5th. And of course, we were hearing new information from President Trump last night on the tarmac on his way back to Washington, D.C., signaling he would be open to a meeting with New York City Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani. And I want to put up this here on Live Now from Fox from the Washington Post, as President Trump has signaled that he may meet with New York Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani after months of criticism and threats. President Trump signaled he may meet with them, telling reporters on tarmac, quote, "We'll work something out." He said, quote, "The mayor of New York, I will say, would like to meet with us." He said this of the 34-year-old Democratic Socialist mayor-elect whom he threatened to arrest just months ago in the run-up to New York's election. He said Mamdani, quote, "would like to come to Washington." So we'll see what that meeting, we've heard some strong criticism about potentially withholding federal funds from New York if and when, and ultimately Mamdani did take it. And we heard Mamdani in his victory speech mention President Trump by name in that way. Let's take you out to some comments from the mayor-elect earlier on today from the Big Apple. Let's dive into this here on Live Now.
We know that is not the case because for the close to 2 million New Yorkers who rely on SNAP benefits, the shutdown simply means that legislation will continue that would throw 300,000 of them off of those same benefits. And so it is time for us to reckon with the fact that while organizations like Catholic Charities and POTS have been doing such incredible work, we need to deliver a city hall that will work with them and also work to protect New Yorkers from a federal administration that would rather starve the people of the city than serve the people of the city. Thank you very much.
All right, we'll start with you, Henry.
Hey, SNAP something you would bring up to the president? He mentioned yesterday he'd like to meet with you. Did your team reach out, and is this one of the first areas of conversation?
My team reached out to the White House to fulfill a commitment I made to New Yorkers over the course of this campaign, a commitment that showed a willingness to meet with anyone and everyone, so long as it was to the benefit of the 8.5 million
This
people
guy
that call the
is
city their
such
home,
a showman.
and so long as it would help to address the affordability crisis that is pushing so many of them out of this city. And SNAP is a
He's
critical
such a
part of that,
puppet,
because what
you
we
know?
see is that New Yorkers
When
are
I see
struggling
him, I
to
see
afford
puppet.
groceries. The president ran a campaign where he spoke about a promise to deliver cheaper groceries, a promise to reduce the cost of living. We are seeing his actions and that of his administration in Washington leading to the exact opposite effect for New Yorkers. And I will go to make the case to the president and to anyone, frankly, that these are the kinds of things we need to change if we want to make it easier for New Yorkers and for Americans to afford the day-to-day necessities of their life.
All right, we'll go right here, Bronx.
Yes. What's up,
How you doing, Bus?
Yeah, no. First of all, thank you so much for getting back to the Bronx. My question, just me as a small business owner here in the Bronx, what do you intend to do for entrepreneurs, small business owners, and just creators here trying to make it happen in New York City?
Well, first of all, I really appreciate the work that you do, and I think it speaks to the fact that too often City Hall is making it harder for entrepreneurs to start to fulfill their dreams. I spoke to a barbershop owner who told me about the fact that if he wanted to open a barbershop in this city, he had to fill out more than 20 forms, go to 7 different agencies, 12 in-person events. These are the kinds of hoops that we are forcing so many to jump through. And there is a initiative within city government called the BEST teams. These are Business Express Service teams. They serve currently only 3% of small business owners. They're supposed to provide one-to-one case management assistance to any small business owner. We're going to fund those teams with an additional $20 million.
Councilmember Chiose, who was a very active and vocal supporter of your mayoral campaign, he's now going to be challenging Congressman Jeffries. What do you make of him taking on such an established Democrat? And then as you grow into more and more influence in your own role, how will you determine the criteria of when you will or will not endorse someone's campaign?
Well, I appreciate the great work that Councilmember Osei has done on the council, especially for tenants. I believe that there are many ways right here in New York City to both deliver on an affordability agenda and take on the authoritarian administration in the White House.
Speaking in
Israel, Mayor Adams said, insinuated that Jews would not stay to the city. They should be worried about their children. I'm wondering what your response to this is.
The mayor is free to travel wherever he would like or spend his time however he'd like in the remaining weeks and months of his administration. I am looking forward not only to deliver for the New Yorkers that were a core part of this campaign, but frankly for each and every Jewish New Yorker across the 5 boroughs, as it will be my responsibility that I will uphold to not only protect Jewish New Yorkers, but to celebrate and cherish them in the city, and I look forward to upholding that.
What do you think about those comments, though? Pretty...
I think they're indicative of the approach that Mayor Adams has taken in this transition period, and I think it is part of why New Yorkers are so desperate for a new kind of politics in the city.
And Jay.
Sir, it sounds like Mayor Adams is inviting the Prime Minister to come to New York, perhaps to attend your inauguration. What do you make of that? Do you find that divisive?
I find Mayor Adams's focuses in these final weeks and months of his administration to be perplexing, to say the least. This is a time when New Yorkers are on the brink of being priced out of the city that they call home. And his actions have little to do with that affordability crisis. And what they show, in fact, is why New Yorkers are so desperate for a new administration, one that will focus on the needs of the city and will look to speak to working class New Yorkers as to what those needs are, as opposed to war criminals.
Yes, Marsha.
So, good afternoon. I'm wondering, since President Trump seems to have changed his tune and is now willing to meet with you after all the invective that you had to do
I hate that smile.
during the campaign, I wonder if you think the reason is because you challenged him on the night you won, but also you've made it clear that you want to Trump-proof the city. So when you meet with him, do you have any hope of him changing his tune, being open to the things that you'd like to talk to him about, and that his threats of taking money away from New York City will end?
I look forward to speaking frankly with anyone across this city and across this country about how we can work
He's
together
saying anyone.
for New Yorkers.
They're
And
talking
in a
about the
conversation
president,
with
you
the
dummy.
president, I will make clear
Anyone or
that
any
even New Yorkers
place.
that I had met over the course of this
Dude.
campaign who had voted for the president, they told me that what they had voted for was a lower cost of living. What they had voted for was cheaper groceries. What they had voted for was
Well, that's a New
a
York
chance at
problem.
affording
That's not a
the day-to-day
president's
of their own
problem.
lives. And what we are
How
finding
is
is that the
that Trump's
administration's
problem?
actions are making that
Now
all
they
the
blame
more
Trump for
difficult.
everything.
And I will make it clear how these policies, be they
Blame
policies to throw hundreds of thousands of New Yorkers off of SNAP, policies to detain and deport New Yorkers as young as 6 years of age, policies that seek to push New Yorkers even more out of the place they call home, those are not only hurting New Yorkers, they're not only hurting the city, they're also in direct contradiction to so much of what the president spoke about in his campaign.
Strategy work that you brought him to his knees?
I look forward to making this case with anyone and everyone, and I think that what New Yorkers deserve is a mayor who's focused on the outcomes, and that is what I will continue to focus on.
All right, we guys have one more right here.
I'm sorry.
No worries.
Food insecurity is getting worse.
This guy
across the
smiles
city,
too
and not
much.
just folks with less now. A lot of the community are stepping up. Myself involved. We have a team that are feeding people in Astoria, Queens this evening. How is the city planning to step in to help New Yorkers struggling to eat? And will you work with grassroots efforts already doing the job on the ground?
Absolutely. And I first just want to say thank you to all those that have been doing this work. And, you know, the other day for Veterans Day, I was at Volunteers of America and spoke with a veteran who pulled me aside and he said, I know we're not supposed to talk about politics, but I just want to let you know that when you all put the money back into SNAP, it meant that my fridge wasn't going to be empty. And I told him that, in fact, those were the actions of Governor Hochul, who took that step to ensure that New Yorkers would not have to starve amidst
Oh,
this government
Lord,
shutdown.
come
Because
on.
we've had shutdowns before, but it was
I need a
decision to
violin
ensure
for
that the shutdown
Christmas.
also meant the lack of SNAP. And so that is an example to me of what it means to stand up for New Yorkers.
Dude,
and the local
they
groups across the city.
reopened the government.
I hold in
What is
deep
he
respect,
talking
especially
about?
as someone who, when I ran for state assembly, I had the chance to work closely with the
This
Astoria
guy's
Food
such
Pantry.
a, he's
Our
just
campaign
a
office
blah, blah,
actually
blah, blah,
became
blah, blah,
their
blah.
office initially in that year. And to me, it just showed the
God,
deep
we gotta
level
deal
of
with this
hunger
shit for
that is
4
affecting
years.
New Yorkers across the.
Can we go a little faster?
What's your reaction to the fact that while you're still putting together your administration, you already have a committee?
That fake ass smile.
Well, I think New Yorkers will always have ideas and opinions, and what it means to be the mayor of the city is also understanding that. And I've spoken with John in the past. I look forward to seeing him in Marty Supreme, and I look forward to putting together an administration that will deliver on the needs of every single person that calls the city their home.
All right, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank
With the grocery stores now, do you have a comment on his change of heart?
All right, just listening in there to Zohran Mamdani at this press conference. The mayor-elect
job.
talking about he has initiated, reached out, his team has, to the White House. As President Trump also revealed last night that the Democratic Socialist Zohran Mamdani has reached out saying we'll work something out. He said that on the tarmac on the way back to Washington, D.C. last night, as Trump has reportedly and repeatedly criticized Mamdani, calling him a communist, endorsing his opponent, of course, Andrew Cuomo, coming up short in that election, the general election. Mamdani, 34-year-old state assemblyman from Queens, identifies himself as a Democratic Socialist, won the race with a historic voter turnout. Last night, Trump said, quote, the mayor of New York, I will say, would like to meet with us and we'll work something out, but he would like to come to Washington. So we'll see what those conversations are about, of course, in terms of affordability. Also, really the crux of that around SNAP and some of the federal funding. President Trump has said that he potentially could withhold some of that. So we're following that closely here on Live Now from Fox. We do want to provide another update to a story developing.
Okay. And let's keep it moving. Let's go to Liberal Hive Mind.
Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. And of course, here's the meme of the day brought to you by FiveMind.com. You know, we're all pretty much in agreement that Democrats are incredibly dishonest. And it's not exactly breaking news. It's not exactly shocking. But even with this understanding, even knowing that there's a crisis of credibility on the left-wing side in politics, sometimes it's just shocking how deep the hypocrisy goes. Sometimes you'll have a Democrat politician say something and you just go, how? How is it even possible to say something like that and then go to sleep at night? A couple of weeks ago, we had that ridiculous claim from Chuck Schumer where he was suggesting that the polling data is biased in reference to Donald Trump.
In the New York Times,
but it's biased.
Not only is that laughably stupid and obviously misinformed, but the level of dishonesty required to engage in that kind of rhetoric, to say something like that out loud, is just from another freaking planet, man. And well, this week, honestly, it's even worse. This time with Adam Schiff hitting us with one of the most insanely out of touch, hypocritical statements I think I've ever uttered from any Democrat, but especially from someone like Adam Schiff. Again, how the hell does this guy freaking sleep at night? You have to be a sociopath to say something like this while engaging in the behavior that Adam Schiff has publicly for the last 10 years. Let me show you guys exactly what's going on. Democrat dishonesty knows no frickin' bounds. Let me show you guys what's going on. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. All right, folks. So let's just take a look at this clip from Adam Schiff, and this isn't old, by the way. This happened just the other day.
That attitude that if you can make a president or a party unsuccessful, no matter what damage it might do to the country, because it's good politics, we have to get past that ruinous idea. We have to figure out a way to stop viewing each other as our enemy. And that solution will come when we figure out how to be better consumers of information again, how to determine what's true and what's not true, how to stop rewarding advertising behemoths for dividing us the way they do.
Listen to that tone, that sanctimonious, performative, and obviously, as we know, manipulative tone, as if we all have freaking amnesia. Adam Schiff lecturing us about getting past the ruinous idea of making presidents unsuccessful because of politics to stop viewing each other as our enemies. You cannot make this stuff up. This is the guy whose entire political strategy relating to governance was to hit the American people with endless hoaxes and impeachment freaking circus. The Russia hoax, the leaks, the secret hearings, the constant disgusting and divisive, dishonest narratives that he was always fundraising on. His entire persona has been resistance, mindless, idiotic, to use his own word, ruinous resistance. If Donald Trump moved a finger, it was World War III and the end of democracy every freaking night on Rachel Maddow's show. If Donald Trump took a step, it was a constitutional emergency. And now, all of a sudden, we have to stop treating each other like enemies? Give me a freaking break. And honestly, I want to hear that from Democrats. I just don't ever want to hear that from Adam freaking Schiff. The messenger matters, no? And obviously, there's more to this. The timing, I think, is really what tells the story. This, of course, coming right after the shutdown gambit blew up in their damn faces. Yeah, let's identify the truth real quick. This sudden kumbaya moment of Adam Schiff was not born out of a personal epiphany or moment of introspection. No, I think what we're seeing here, this is the Democrat old guard hitting the panic button as they realize they're losing control of the Democrat machine. The young socialist bloc's running the party now. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is the captain. Zoran Mamdani and Hassan Piker are the lieutenants. And of course, these young socialist revolutionaries, they demand total resistance, no compromise, scorched earth, burn it all to the ground is the approach they take to dealing with the other side. There's no such thing as olive branches or building bridges. And of course, that's now the standard that all these Democrats have to live up to. And Adam Schiff sees it. Of course he sees it, because he's been feeding that beast for years. Resist the resistance. Hashtag no kings. It's been governance by tantrum. He's cultivated that culture. I've always said when other politicians are strategy. And well, now Democrats are realizing that this culture they've created, it's now aimed at them. They've put themselves in that box. They're now stuck between a base that wants a permanent war, and frankly, I think a public that's exhausted. And now we're seeing Democrats, I think, slowly starting to backpedal. And of course, they got to do it real slow, because if leftoids catch on to what these top old guard Democrats are feeling right now, what do you think's going to happen? The ruin of their career. It's over, especially in California and New York. And that's why we're getting this rhetoric right now. Adam Schiff isn't renouncing the tactic. No, he's begging his own side to stop. The strategy was good when they were causing deliberate pain, injecting chaos into the American political system for the headlines. But now the second it's backfiring, suddenly Adam Schiff wants unity. Well, here's my reaction. Go f yourself. No, you don't get to light the house on fire and then complain you can't breathe because of the smoke-filled air. Democrats created this climate. They branded half the country extremists. They turned every hearing into a clout-chasing practice, trying to get little sound bites where they can go viral and then fundraise off of. They treated Trump and Trump voters like enemies of the state that needed to be isolated, punished, removed from civil society, exiled, banned off platforms. And throughout that entire process, they called President Trump, they called called you, Trump voters, Trump supporters, divisive. He's dividing the country. No, that's what you guys did. Your entire strategy was division. Nothing but a massive gaslighting campaign, cause endless division, and point the finger at Donald Trump and say, hey, bro, why are you causing so much division? Or cause pain like you did during the shutdown, or as you've been doing every single time that President Trump's in power and Democrats are wielding any congressional power, sabotage his agenda, attempt to manufacture crises and then blame them on President Trump, essentially engineer a mess and then point the finger at somebody else. And now, well, this little culture that you've created is running amok. It's out of control. And it's exactly as we've been warning you. Eventually, it's going to turn on you. And here it is, and you can tell they're panicked because they understand what's coming next. The old guard of the Democrat establishment is done. AOC, Zoran Mamdani, as much as Democrats want to deny it, that's the monster you created. And now instead of a political party, you have a cult where everybody must conform to this very narrow, rigid worldview and to this cynical culture of endless resistance. And if you don't, well, what happened to RFK Jr., what happened to Tulsi Gabbard and everybody else, that's what you get. What's happening to Chuck Schumer now, who's been actually pretty loyal to the left-wing sycophants. Well, even he's on the frickin' chopping block because he couldn't keep it together. It's not like he went back on the strategy. No, he just failed to deliver. He failed to keep the caucus in line with absolute mindless left-wing sabotage insanity. And even he's gone, or likely to be gone moving forward here. And clearly you could tell Adam Schiff sees the writing on the wall. If it can happen to Chuck Schumer, well, it can happen to him, and he's now slamming the brakes. Whoa, we need unity. We can't just be sabotaging. Absolutely pathetic. And one thing I'm really hoping is that nobody's taking this seriously or genuine. I hope Adam Schiff isn't getting credit for this because he doesn't actually believe this. And if it would benefit him, he would continue to sabotage the president. I mean, he's coming off supporting the government shutdown mindlessly. It's obvious what they're doing. He's protecting his own frickin' behind. And of course, Democrats are preparing to once again run on unity in 2028, just like they did with Joe Biden in 2020. But the whole thing's a freaking scam. It's a farce. Unity. Compromise. If these people get into power again, they will wield every institution of power against their political enemies, just as they have in the past. They will end the filibuster and take full control of the U.S. government. Don't fall for it, folks. It's a freaking ruse. It's a trap. It's a trap. And it's one of the most insane insults to my intelligence I've ever experienced. Anyways, that's pretty much what I got for you guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.
Yeah, thank you, Liberal Hive Mind. That's a really cool show. All right, we're going to finish up the night with two back-to-back Tyson de la Cruz, and then I'm wrapping it up because I'm tired and my body's really achy and I'm not feeling really good. So let's go ahead and set up for Tyson. Let's go ahead and enjoy this together.
Today, a major drug investigation leading law enforcement into one of the city's largest homeless encampments.
America, a months-long drug investigation in Tucson just led authorities straight into the heart of the city's largest homeless encampment, a place that they call 100-acre woods, where 60-plus people have been living in makeshift shelters. But here's what's really wild. This is the same area that's scheduled to be cleared next week to build a BMX park. Because what we're seeing in Tucson perfectly illustrates the connection between homelessness, drug trafficking, and failed policies that turn public spaces into crime havens instead of community assets.
Three men have been arrested for their alleged involvement in a major drug trafficking investigation. According to the police, the suspects were arrested yesterday at the 100-acre woods homeless encampment.
What is up, guys? Tyson de la Cruz here. Thank you so much for rocking with me. This story out of Tucson shows exactly what happens when the city allows homeless encampments to fester and boil. They become magnets for drug dealers and criminal activity that destroy entire neighborhoods and communities. Let's jump into this investigation and what it reveals about America's homeless crisis. This whole story starts with a months-long narcotics trafficking investigation that began outside the city of Tucson. Arizona Department of Public Safety, working with Tucson police, have been tracking drug dealers for months when their investigation led them straight to the 100-acre woods homeless encampment.
Well, a road on the south side is back open after roads were restricted while a search warrant was being served. Tucson police tell us they were assisting the Department of Public Safety, who was serving a search warrant in the area of Swan and Golf Links Road.
Think about this, you guys. A major drug trafficking investigation that started outside the city ended up up at a homeless encampment. That is not a coincidence. That is the reality of what these encampments become when cities refuse to address them properly. Arizona DPS and Tucson police had to serve a search warrant right in the middle of this homeless encampment. When your drug investigation leads you to where homeless people are living, that tells you everything that you need to know about what these places really are. The investigation resulted in 3 arrests, and these weren't just small-time users. We're talking about major players in drug trafficking operations. Charles McDaniel, 67 years old, Timothy Welch, 55 years old, and Anthony Gross, 59 years old. These aren't young kids making bad decisions. These are grown men who've been in the drug game for decades. They set up shop right in the middle of the homeless encampment.
They say the 3 men each played a pivotal role in major drug sales in the region and possibly the potential sale of firearms.
So we're not just talking about drugs, we're talking about weapons trafficking happening right in the middle of where homeless people are living. This is exactly what I've been telling you guys about these homeless encampments. They become magnets for criminal activity, and that puts everybody at risk. The homeless people living there, the surrounding neighborhoods, and entire communities. Now let's talk about this place that they call 100-acre wood. It's Tucson's largest homeless encampment, located near Golf Links and Swan, where about 60 plus people have been living in makeshift shelters for years.
This is Chris Sanchez's front yard.
And things kind of just went sour for me a little bit, you know what I mean?
He's been living in the 100-acre wood for over a year, building this shelter complete with a living room, bedroom, and game room.
He's calling this place home. But here's the reality. His home just became a center of a major drug trafficking investigation. Patricia has been living there for 3 years. 3 years. And now she's facing the reality that this place is going to be shut down, but she won't accept housing because they won't let her in and keep her dog. So she'd rather stay homeless than follow basic housing rules.
It's hard, no water, no food.
Patricia Contreras has lived in the 100-acre wood for 3 years. She had housing lined up, but now...
And now I have till tomorrow to find housing or to get rid of all my dogs. And I'm not going to get rid of the dogs. They knew I had the dogs, and now I'm probably going to be homeless again after tomorrow.
It's a dilemma many will face next week as the city moves to start construction on a new bike park.
This, unfortunately, is the mentality that we're dealing with, you guys. People who have made these encampments part of their permanent lifestyle, refusing help because they don't want to follow basic rules, stay clean, and come to actual housing. Here's what city officials won't tell you. As we know, with most, if not all, homeless encampments, drugs and crime follows. It's not a coincidence that a major drug trafficking investigation led straight to this homeless encampment.
Just found out that they came in and arrested a bunch of people. I'm trying to get out of here. I'm trying to better myself. I'm on a housing list. I'm trying to get housing. I'm trying to, do what's right. And it seems like they're just picking on us, because we're homeless.
Listen to this guy. He says it seems that they're picking on us because we're homeless. No, brother, they're not picking on you because you're homeless. They're arresting drug dealers who set up shop in your encampment because that's what happens when the city allows these places to exist without proper oversight.
I have a past. I'm ashamed of my past, but I'm trying to better myself.
He admits he has a past. He's trying to better himself, and that is great and dandy. But you cannot better yourself while you're living in a place that's become a hub for drug trafficking. That's the problem with these encampments. They become magnets for criminal activity and drugs that make it almost impossible for people who genuinely want to help you and get clean. Now, here's where the story gets interesting. The city has been planning to clear out this 100-acre wood to build a BMX park. Construction is supposed to start next week, right after the drug bust.
With the area known as the 100-acre wood scheduled to close next Wednesday for construction on a new BMX bike park.
Think about the timing here. A months-long drug investigation accumulates in arrests at this encampment just days before the city's supposed to clear it out for legitimate community use. That is not a coincidence. That is what happens when you finally decide to reclaim public spaces from criminal activity. The city says they need to test groundwater and make improvements to the existing BMX park. But let's be real. They're clearing out a drug-infested homeless encampment to build something that will actually benefit the community instead of harboring criminal activity. This story perfectly illustrates the choice cities face with homeless encampments. You can either allow them to fester and become magnets for drugs and criminal activity, or you can reclaim public spaces for legitimate public use. The city says they'd offer housing and services multiple times to these people, but haven't seen high numbers of people taking services being offered. offered. That is the reality, my friends. Unfortunately, many of these folks don't want help. They want to live without rules or accountability. Meanwhile, the community suffers, neighborhoods become unsafe, public spaces become unstable, and criminal activity flourishes. The 100-Acre Woods bust proves that these encampments aren't just about homelessness. They're about creating lawlessness zones that attract the worst elements of society. America, the Tucson 100-Acre Woods situation shows us exactly what happens when cities allow homeless encampments to become permanent fixtures. They don't solve homelessness. They create crime havens and destroy communities. The fact a major drug trafficking investigation led straight to this encampment proves what we've been saying all along. These places have become magnets for this type of stuff. Converting this space into a BMX park is exactly what should happen. Instead of harboring drug dealers and criminals, this land will serve the entire community and give kids a safe space to ride bikes and be active. That's the choice that a lot of these cities face. Enable criminal activity through permanent encampments or reclaim the public spaces for community use. Let me know what you think about this. Drop it down in the comment section down below. Smash the like button if you kindly would. Share, subscribe, and as always, guys, I'll catch you on the next one.
All right, let's keep it going. Back to back, Tyson de la Cruz. So let's get to it.
A stunning admission in federal court from a former police chief who also ran the municipality he swore to protect.
America, we just uncovered a story that perfectly shows what happens when you put a fox in charge of a hen house. A Missouri police chief named Daniel Polino allegedly stole over $313,000 from taxpayers while serving both as police chief and city administrator. But here's what's really shocking. This guy was literally policing himself while robbing the city blind. Because when one person controls the rules, the receipts, the oversights, that's not efficiency. That is a recipe for corruption on a scale that'll make your head spin.
One alleged charge was for $3,956 and change payable to cheap Caribbean vacations.
What is up, guys? Tyson de la Cruz here. Thank you so much for rocking with me. This story out of Missouri is exactly why we need accountability and transparency in our government. When officials think they're above the law, this is what happens to our tax dollars. Let's jump into the corruption scandal that destroyed this entire town. Think about this for a second, guys. Daniel Polino was a police chief responsible for stopping crime and city administrator in charge of the budget. That's like making a bank robber the head of bank security. For over a decade, this man watched over the city as police chief and eventually became the city administrator as well. His reported salary was $95,000 a year for a town with about 1,200 people. 1,200 people. And get this, 20% of those residents live below the poverty line.
A stunning admission in federal court from a former police chief who also ran the municipality he swore to protect.
It was quite a moment in court seeing a former police chief who for years spoke out against police officers with improper credentials. He did interviews about it on Fox 2, like you said, then seeing him in court admit to stealing.
But 95 grand wasn't enough for this guy. According to the federal indictment, Polino systematically looted the city treasurer for years while wearing a badge and pretending to serve his community.
Over 800 charges on the city's credit card to third-party vendors just for his personal expenses and things. Places like Walmart and places that you and I would shop.
Everyday shopping that this corrupt cop was charging to taxpayers while people in his own town were struggling below the poverty line. Let me break down how brazen this theft was because the details will make you sick. Polino racked up $145,000 in personal charges on the city credit card for groceries, gases, and probably vacations, but it gets worse.
Charge was for $3,900 and change to cheap Caribbean vacations.
$1,000.
When you hear things like that, that's a lot of revenue that went through this community.
20% of his residents was living in the Caribbean on their dime. But the personal credit card charges were just the beginning. He transferred $43,000 to his own towing companies because apparently the city needed to pay for his business to tow cars. This guy was literally paying himself with taxpayer money through his private businesses. And get this, his wife was on the payroll for 50 grand for a public. He never actually worked. That is your tax dollars funding.
Supposed to protect and serve, but instead he admits to stealing tens of thousands of dollars. Former Bellevue Police Chief Daniel Polino pleaded guilty in court today of defrauding the government of at least $158,000. Prosecutors say he took the money for his other businesses, to pay credit cards, and for travel.
The federal indictment shows he caused about 55 direct deposits totaling 54 grand funds, supposedly for his spouse's payroll, to be sent to her personal bank account. His wife was being paid to work in the Public Works Division. We're talking about $313,000 stolen from a town with just over 1,000 people. That's roughly $285 per resident, you guys. In a small town like that, this money could have fixed roads, upgrade equipment, or actually provided services. Instead, it went to this guy's pocket while he wore a badge and pretended to serve his community.
What do you say to the residents who trusted you?
No comment.
No comment.
Look at this. When asked what he would say to the residents who trusted him, he has nothing. Nada. No comment. No apology, just walks like the coward that he is. And here's what really gets me. Supposedly, Polino was an outspoken chief, often calling out officers in other departments who said that shouldn't be cops. This hypocrite was lecturing other departments about proper police conduct while systematically robbing his own city blind.
Our main concern is that we want us to see if there's any victims out there that may have been stopped or even frisked, patted down, or maybe even arrested, quote unquote, by this individual.
Listen to this 2014 interview where he's talking about wanting to see if there are victims who have been stopped or arrested by officers who shouldn't be cops. The irony here is absolutely incredible. He's worried about bad cops while being the worst cop of all. But Polino wasn't just stealing. He was trying to cover his tracks. The indictment shows that during the crime spree, he transferred about 58 grand from his personal and business bank accounts back to the city to try to conceal his crimes. Think about that. He was so systematic in his theft that he was actually moving money back and forth to try to hide what he was actually doing. This wasn't some spur of the moment mistake. This was calculated. This was premeditated theft over multiple years.
Shocking.
Resident Angela Brooks.
When you hear things like that, that's a lot of revenue that went through this community.
Listen to this resident. She's shocked at how much revenue went through the community while people were struggling. That's the real tragedy. While residents needed basic services, their police chief was stealing their money for Caribbean vacations and fake jobs for his family. The money was transferred without the authority or acknowledgement from the city, its mayor, its treasurer, its board of aldermen. So not only was he stealing, he was doing it completely in secret while holding a position of ultimate trust and authority. And here's what really gets me. The mayor claims he raised red flags back in 2022, but nothing happened until the FBI showed up. That's 2 years of theft continuing because nobody wanted to hold this guy accountable.
Polino's former Velda City Police Department is now closed. Officers walked off the job last March as police services were contracted out to a different department.
People are breaking in right across from the police department.
Yolanda lives nearby.
All those cars are sitting there with nobody working.
Now look at the consequences. The Velda City Police Department is completely closed. Officers walked off the job last March, and the police services had to be completely contracted out to a different department. The city is broke, the police department has been dissolved, and taxpayers are left holding the bag. And get this, after destroying Velda City, Polino got hired as a police officer in Hillsdale. When reporters went to ask him about the indictment, the police department was also closed and locked. The city administrator said they were unaware of the charges. Daniel Polino pled guilty to wire fraud and faces up to 40 years in federal prison. Each wire fraud count carries a maximum of 20 years, and he was convicted of multiple counts. But here's the thing, 40 years in prison won't bring back 313 grand that he stole. It won't restore the trust in the community. It won't fix the roads that could have been repaired or fund the services that could have been provided. This is what happens when you don't have proper checks and balances. When you concentrate power in one person person's hands without accountability, you're asking for corruption. One corrupt official destroyed an entire community's trust and financial stability. America, this story perfectly illustrates everything wrong with unchecked power. Daniel Polino had the authority to enforce the law and control the budget without real oversight. The result? Systematic theft that destroyed a small town. The lesson here is simple. When you concentrate power in one person's hands without accountability, you're asking for corruption. We need transparency. We need oversight and people who actually care about serving taxpayers instead of serving themselves. This is why we need to demand accountability from every level of government, from small town police chiefs to federal administrators. No one should be above the law. Let me know what you think about this. Drop it down in the comment section down below. Smash the like button if you kindly would. Share, subscribe, and as always, guys, I'll catch you on the next one.
Oh man, you know how it is, man. Everything's just crazy. This world is crazy. It just is. You know, we're living in a universe that is just everything is happening. Everything that is like opposite is happening, and we're dealing with the timeline we're in. You know, I imagine that that 3i Atlas was a real ship coming towards us. The like a little reverse thrusts and it starts heading towards Earth. That will freak everybody the fuck out. It'll be some kind of like Independence Day movie. Fucking Independence Day. We don't need no fucking aliens up in here. We already have enough aliens. We have a lot of illegal aliens that needs to be removed. I know they know the fraud that's going on in the EBT system and with the housing system. A lot of fraud with having illegals put into those systems. Those systems are meant for disabled Americans, Americans that need help along the way, and so forth. And yet they put all these millions upon millions of people into this program and just try to like bleed it and try to kill it, because it's only meant for a certain amount of people, but they put everybody on it, and like it went up to like 40 something percent, like right after Biden took office and stuff. Like it just started exploding. And you know, when you have so many people in that system, remember all those people are eating food and getting food and eating up our resources. That's why the prices are so fucking high. It's just there's too many motherfucking mouths eating. That's the fucking problem. When you have too many motherfucking mouths eating, it gets expensive. It is expensive. And the prices go up. Now, if we remove all these illegals out of here, I guarantee you the price of everything will come down. Everything. I guarantee it. If I was running for president, that's would be my running point. We get the illegals out, and I guarantee you everything will become more cheaper. Everything. But, you know, people like to continue going around circles with the same narrative over and over and over, and nothing happens. Nobody's held there's no accountability, so it's kind of like a circle. It keeps going around and around and around, and people continue to make mistakes every single day. But that's my thought, and I'm done for the night. I'm tired. I want to relax tonight. So thank you everyone for watching. Truly appreciate it. Have a good morning, good afternoon, and a good night. And I'll catch you on the flip side, and I'll be back on again tomorrow for another beautiful show. See what happens. Who knows, right? Everything is just weird right now, and every day's a new day. Every day we all make mistakes. Okay, guys. Good night.